Don't tell me ngondingiliza. Kept emphasizing ukuthi kunobugebengu in this whole thing, now saying that he was near the crime scene. Njani? Now you're telling me that you read the statement back to Absolom Zungu and both of you didn't pick up that the ID number was wrong? You were not going to call me, why arrest the accused using the same statement then? 1, the address is wrong. 2, the ID number is wrong. 3, the signature is wrong. But you're saying the ship has sailed. Baloi, like in the right.
And I'm bad like the Barbie. I'm a doll, but I still wanna party. Things felt like I'm ready to bend. I'm a 10, so I pull an next 10. Like Daddy. All of the Barbies is pretty. Damn, all of the bodies is bad.
Hello and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Nogwazi Ntombela, also known as Gwazi Bear on all social media platforms. Do subscribe, be a part of this family, and if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back, darling. Now, as you know, every week I bring you proceedings in the Senzo Meyiwa trial, so I'm here to do exactly that. But before we get into this video, guys, please do like this video so that YouTube does recommend it to other users, and also comment with your thoughts on the proceedings of this week. And most importantly, please do not skip ads, guys. Don't skip the ads that appear on the videos. That is how I make my money on YouTube, because anifuna ukungigift. Anisebenzisi le button lela eduze kwa like ebhalu thanks so that you can gift me. So at least watch the ads, okay? Without wasting too much of your time, let us get into this video. Now, on Monday the 17th of November, cross-examination of Bab Absolom Zungu was expected to continue with Ramusipili. And some of the questions that Ramusipili was touching on is basically how Bab Zungu knows Undanzi and how they are related, and how Uzungu refers to Undanzi. And before Ramusipili could even go far with his questions, already there were several objections from the state stating that, you know, Bab Absolom Zungu says he knows nothing about the statement, so the questions that Ramusipili is asking are irrelevant. That sort of caught him a bit off guard, Ramusipili, and I saw him sort of panic with his cross-examination, but he further continued to ask more questions to Bab Absolom Zungu. Most of the questions that Ramusipili posed to the witness had to do with, you know, the issue of Umbekseni, the issue of the statement and the signature, as well as the issue of Zungu's testimony in the court, and how Bab Absolom Zungu actually felt about what Zungu said before the court. Absolom did not hold back, because he kept on repeating how he was so confused as to how it is said that he wrote the statement, however he had never been called to come and testify. Just before he wraps up, Ramusipili questions on the issue of the surname Khumalo that Bab Zungu was said to use during this time, when Bab Absolom had told us that he was told that he should use the surname Ukhumalo, and Ramusipili basically questioned why does he think that it was important for them to change his surname. And he says, well, he really does not know, but all he knows is that Constable Zungu was promised a promotion by Brigadier Kininda. There really wasn't much in the cross-examination of Ramusipili. On Monday, Unqumalo also then took on his cross-examination. And when I say Unqumalo is a silent assassin, please believe me, because he literally had 4 questions for the witness, and in those 4 questions, he exposed so much. So the first question, he basically asked about knowing accused number 4, and Bab Absolom does say that he does not know. And then he also questions whether Zungu ever mentioned the name of Oma Pisa, and Bab Absolom says no, he never mentioned this name. And then the drop of a bomb when he asked about Bab Absolom Zungu's ID number. Now, he asked Bab Absolom Zungu to go to Exhibit U, which is the statement that Kininda says Absolom Zungu allegedly made. And the first few lines of that statement is obviously the confirmation of the person who's deposing the statement. And Unqumalo picks up that the ID number, he says, the 4 numbers after the date of birth are 558 on the statement that Kininda has. And then he then goes to the statement as a Newcastle, where Bab Absolom made another statement, and he says the ID number there, let me just read it in full, and he reads out the full ID number of Absolom Zungu, which is 58021455958082. That's Bab Absolom Zungu's ID number. However, in Gininda's statement, the ID number that is written on it is 580214 558082. Firstly, there's a number missing on that ID number. Secondly, the number is completely wrong. Now you're telling me that you read the statement back to Absolom Zungu and both of you didn't pick up that the ID number was wrong? Njani. And with that, Umumalo says, I will leave this for argument. But Bab Absolom Zungu definitely agrees that the ID number on Gininda's exhibit Triple U and the Triple U1, which is the statement from Newcastle, has completely different ID numbers. Now, Mshololo also cross-examines Bab Absolom Zungu on Monday and basically takes him through how he was kidnapped. And says that he had no idea where he was going with Abo Gininda. It was never explained to him. And also, it's just when he did try to ask where are they taking him, they say ngeke sizwe ngawe. So Umshololo basically emphasized on the issue of the kidnapping that took place. And when Umshololo completes her cross-examination, she really didn't have much questions for the witness. But when she completes her cross-examination, she then asked the witness if he has anything to add. And Bab Zungu had a lot to say. He kept saying, and I don't understand why these people, if they're saying I'm the one that pointed out the accused, why don't they bring me to court to then point these accused out in court? And Judge Rata then interrupts, as he would always do, and he says, I've been letting you say this all along, but the reason why there was a case opened is not because of you. It was because Senzo Meyiwa was killed. But he knows exactly what Bab Absolom Zungu meant. Absolom, in his response to Judge Rata, says, Ngikhuluma ngalento. And he takes out the statement and he says, this is what I'm referring to. My name has been called all over this court, yet I am not called to this court to come and testify. So why is that so? He even goes as far as saying that Gininda is stirring up trouble for the people because now the neighbors are looking at him as if he got these people arrested and they're not calling him to court to come confirm what Gininda is saying. So he's very upset at the fact that he hasn't been called to court if it is alleged that he made this particular statement. And as he goes on, he says, it was said here in court when I listened to Gininda testify in court, he said the reason why these people were arrested were because of my statement. So in that, I would expect Gininda to then call me so that I can come and confirm in court that, yeah, what I said in the statement is exactly what it is. And I can still point out these people. But that wasn't done. And the reason that wasn't done is because Gunok even goes as far as mentioning that Uzungu is confusing him because Uzungu knew nothing about the incident and even came to his father to question some of the people when he came with the photo of Umuzi to ask, who is this, and nan. But now, all of a sudden, Zungu comes to testify, and he's now saying that he was near the crime scene. Njani. So Baloyi did have an objection to say that Mshololo seems to be leading the witness. And Bab Absolom says, no, she's not leading me. She was not even here on Friday when I started explaining this whole thing. So I'm trying to explain to her where the background of my anger and heartbreak comes from. He says, it's so surprising to me that Gininda and Zungu knew nothing about the people who killed Senzo Meyiwa. They were gallivanting around KZN saying that they're looking for people who killed Senzo. Then all of a sudden, Zungu comes to testify and he says he was near the crime scene. How is that possible? Mshololo also completes her cross-examination on Monday, and then it was time for Ubaloyi to cross-examine the witness. And before he started cross-examining the witness, he did hand up the statement that Ubabu Zungu made at Newcastle, and that was going to be named Exhibit Triple U1, along with Ubabu Zungu's ID, which was also going to be part of the exhibits before the court, as they had used it as reference to compare the ID number and the signature on both of these documents. One of the first questions Ubaloyi asked Ubabu Zungu is with regards to the last question Umshololo asked him about how he felt when his name was called out in court and the statement was said to be done by him. And he says he felt hurt because he felt that the police were doing criminal activities using his name. So he was hurt by that. Now, one of the questions again that Baloyi asked is that Bab Absolom Zungu only made his statement this year, which is 2025, and he says that Kininda was testifying in court way back in 2023. So why did he wait so long to actually come forward? And Bab Absolom basically answers and says, he had no idea what was meant to be done when his name has been called in court. He didn't know the procedure that he needed to follow until the people from TikTok, as he called them, actually approached him and talked to him about this whole thing. So he wouldn't have known what to do. He didn't know what steps to follow in order to come to court and actually correct what Kininda have been saying on the record all this time. And Baloyi questions when the interview was held and with whom the interview was held. He even goes as far as trying to confirm whether it was a news outlet that Bab Zungu had an interview with. And Bab Zungu, you can clearly see that he doesn't have really the understanding of the whole social media thing. He just says it was people from TikTok. If they working with the SABC News or whatever, then I don't know. But bottom line is that I did meet with them and I did speak to these people, and it was voluntary. They did not force me to do anything. And then afterwards, they then took me to the police station so that I could write down everything that I had said to them and had done with them. Now, another question that Ubaloyi asked to Zungu, Ubaba Zungu, because he's been watching the proceedings, he does say that he heard Kininda saying in court that he wasn't willing to testify. And Baloyi said there was no such evidence. I wanted the defense to actually object to this because we heard Kininda saying that Bab Absolom did not want to testify. That is on record. But Baloyi disputed that and the defense was just quiet. I was so annoyed. Baloyi goes into the issue of the triple hearsay evidence, where he says they had made it clear as the state that they were not going to call Bab Absolom Zungu because his evidence is hearsay evidence. So Zungu, in his response to this, says, if you were not going to call me, then why use my statement in court? Which is a valid question. If you were not going to call me, why use my statement in court? If you were not going to call me, why arrest the accused using the same statement then? Another crazy question that Ubaloyi asked is that, Bab Zungu, you say that you were sort of scared of Kininda because they took you without your permission and they brought you back later on. So why did you agree to meet with Kininda in Newcastle? Bab Absolom Zungu says, I agreed to meet him because it was under the terms that we were meeting at a police station. Hence why I said we should meet at a police station, because I did not feel safe with these people. So I asked them to meet me at the police station. So for my safety, I met them at the police station. So I saw nothing wrong with that. And my safety was covered as far as I was concerned. Then he asked Bab Absolom about Kininda wanting him to come testify, because Bab Absolom Zungu did say that Kininda had requested him to come and testify. And there were also offers of taking him outside of the country. And Ubaloyi basically tries to emphasize that the only reason why Kininda would talk about taking him out of the country is because of witness protection. So those are the reasons that Kininda would speak about it, because he had made a statement. And Bab Absolom says, I had not made a statement, and Kininda wanting to take me out of the country is Kininda engenzingane, because I've got a home. I've got a home that I work very hard for Kininda to just come and want to take me outside of the country. I refuse that suggestion by Kininda. Then Ubaloyi goes into the issue of Mahlabathini, where he says, so Babu Absolom, you are from Mahlabathini. Bab Absolom agrees that he is from Mahlabathini, and he says Musa is also from Mahlabathini, and Bab Absolom does agree to this as well. Then goes into Moses Biya's bank statement, where it says that he's from Egushumayeleni and it says Nongoma. And Bab Zungu tries to explain that some people do put Unongoma, but actually Egushumayeleni is in Mahlabathini, and it's very specific that Mahlabathini and Nongoma are not the same place. And this then corroborates version Gamuzi when he says, Nongoma, I don't stay kwa Nongoma mina, ngihlala eMahlabathini. Bab Absolom Zungu as well does agree to this. Now he asks Ubaba Zungu as well if he knew the sisters of Moses Biya. Ubaba Zungu says, yeah, he does know, but he doesn't know the names of the sisters. And then he asks about the brothers of Undanzi, and he mentions Umbekseni, and then he does also say that Danzi has other brothers that he has back home. He then questions Bab Absolom Zungu on the issue of the Newcastle police station, where Bab Absolom Zungu had met with Kininda, and he asks why did he ask him to meet at Newcastle. And Bab Absolom Zungu basically explains that when Kininda called him, he was in Dundee visiting a friend or relatives of some sort, and basically Newcastle was the closest place for him to go. to meet with Ukininda. So that is the only reason why he met Ukininda there. Now, some people have been going on about Bab Zungu has relocated for his safety. No, Bab Zungu says he's never relocated. Yes, he would go to Newcastle every now and then to visit family members, but his home is in Makabatini. He stays there. He has never moved from there. When Ubaloyi continues with the cross-examination and questions Bab Zungu on the versions of all Kininda that they put before the court, Bab Absolom is adamant in saying Kininda and Zungu knew exactly what they were doing. And what confuses him more than anything is that if he wrote the statement that got the accused arrested, when Zungu came to testify, why did Zungu not mention his statement? Because in the statement, it says that he then told his son. Why did Zungu not then come and testify and say, I heard it from my father? Which was a very good question, because Bab Absolom is on point with his questions. He says, there's no way. If I wrote the statement and I'm saying I told my son, why is it that my son, when he comes to testify, doesn't mention my statement, but all of a sudden says that he was there? How does that happen? He kept emphasizing in this whole thing, and he is angry about the whole situation. And as Ubabu Zungu is voicing his frustrations with the situation with Ukininda, saying that he used his statement to arrest the accused, Ubaloye basically says, oh, well, Babu Zungu, Kininda already testified and told us that he used your statement to arrest the accused, so that ship has sailed. I bonjani. How can that ship sail when Ubabu Zungu is denying the statement? Because you arrested the accused saying Ubabu Zungu wanted. Now Ubabu Zungu, the source of the information, saying that's not me. 1, the address is wrong. 2, the ID number is wrong. 3, the signature is wrong. But she's saying the ship has sailed. Baloi, like in the right. Zungu responds to this and says, hey, musanu kudlala ngami nina nkantolo. uZungu wenza kanjani ukuthi azotestify la? uZungu athi wayekhona kodwa abantu baboshwe ngestatement sami. Utestify yani uZungu? What is Zungu testifying to? Because the statement is mine, not his. As Ubaloyi is asking Ubabu Zungu a certain question, and in his response, Ubabu Zungu says, Kanti, what is the procedure when a person writes a statement or deposes a statement? Then Ubaloyi basically explains the procedure and says, you know, when a person deposes a statement, they are then called to court, and this is done, and this is done, and this is done. And then Ubabu Zungu's question that followed that is, Paul minang bizwangan. With that, Baloyi was like, you know what, let's just adjourn for the day, we're done. On Tuesday, the 18th of November, we were meant to continue with cross-examination of Bab Absolom Zungu, but it was indicated that he is not feeling too good. He had, I think, left his medication, some sort of medication, and there was an issue. It was an issue that they needed to discuss in the chambers, so there was an adjournment for them to discuss that certain issue, and it was said that we will continue with the proceedings. However, if Bab Absolom Zungu doesn't feel well during the proceedings, then they will need to stop. But fortunately for us, Bab Zungu was able to go on with the cross-examination throughout the whole day and was perfectly fine to continue. Now, most of the questions on Tuesday were very repetitive with Bab Zungu. It is questions that the rest of the defense had already covered in their cross-examination. But one of the questions that Ubaloyi raised was the issue of the protection of Bab Zungu, where he says, you know, Bab Zungu was offered protection by Ukininda, and this protection is only given to people that have given statement. And so he was asking Bab Zungu, how does he then explain why this offer of protection from Ukininda if he didn't make a statement? Bab Zungu in his response says, there's nothing there's nothing I can answer to when it comes to izinto zobugebengu, because these people were clearly doing criminal activities with what they were doing about Ukininda. Now Ubaloyi goes into his statements about Absolom Zungu, where he says there is a typed version of the particular statement. So there's a written version where Ukininda written in his own handwriting, and there's also a typed version. Now in this typed version, Ubaloyi says certain information has been left out of the statement for the protection of the witness. And Bab Zungu says, does it sound like a sane statement if it doesn't have the names in the particular of the person? A statement is Johnny, this is gonna details. Baloyi basically tries to explain to Bab Zungu that the reason why some of the information was left out is for the protection of the witness. Bab Absolom is like, protect one. This is one corruption. This is the corruption that I'm talking about. This is how it starts, because how can you bring a document that has missing information? Why are you bringing a document with missing information? And he does not understand at all what is up with the statements. Now Baloyi says to Bab Absolom, he puts it to him that the reason why Gininda was taking all these steps to protect him is because he did make a statement. Bab Zungu in his response says, Eyomile iyaziela emfuleni. That is a saying, yes Zulu, which basically means whoever wants something would actually take themselves to that thing. But in his case, Gininda came to him. He didn't go to Gininda to give him a statement. Gininda came all the way to him. So does that make sense to you? Even says if Gininda could do this to him, how many more people has Gininda done this to? And he says it's no wonder this trial is taking so long, because it's built up on lies. Now he goes into Exhibit U, where he says on that statement it's written Unhlanhlezi Absolom Zungu. Is that not your name? Absolom says yes, that is my name. The date of birth is written the 14th of February 1958. Is that not your date of birth? He says yes, that is my date of birth. He says the contact number is 083-741-8652. But Absolom says yes, that used to be my number. And he says then where did Gininda get this information? Absolom's response is, was Zungu my son not there? Zungu my son was there. That information would have been given to Gininda by him. So he would have known that information because he was with my son. Now he goes into the day in which this alleged statement was taken and the people who were present. Well, Bab Absolom Zungu said there were 5 people that were present, but Gininda says it was just Umukhane. He basically goes through that evidence and he says, the people that you say were present, did they ask you if you know the accused and all that? He says, yeah, all of them were talking about accused 1 and 2 during the process of this whole thing. So all of them that were there already knew all this information that they are saying is in the statement and was written by me. And then he goes into the issue of the photo. He asked him, on the day that you wrote the statement, did they show you a photo of Moses Biya? Bab Zungu says no. The only time that I was shown a photo is when Uzungu came to Emelo and I saw the photo on his phone. But what's confusing me is that Gininda is also mentioning a photo in my statement. He says that I said there's a photo, and he says that the photo is attached in the statement, but the photo is not attached in the statement. Guys, Bab Absolom is very smart. Bab Absolom is very, very smart. Baloyi then questions where the 5 people would have gotten the information Mbekiseni, and he basically goes back to explain how Mbekiseni came into the picture, where he says the only reason why Mbekiseni's name is in this is because Zungu met Mbekiseni. Mbekiseni was the person who I had asked to go pick up Uzungu and take him to where I stay, because I was at work when Zungu actually came to my place. So Zungu had called and said he's coming to my place, and because I was at work, I asked Mbekiseni to come pick him up in town and take him to my place. That's the only reason why Mbekiseni is in it. And I cannot wait for the day that the defense calls Mbekiseni to come and confirm Bab Absolom Zungu's version, because Uzungu is a liar. Now, Ubaloyi also goes into the issue where it's said that Bab Absolom says he knows Umuzi because or wasemahlabathini, and he knows Undanzi because he works in Rustenburg. Bab Zungu's like, I don't even know where these kids work. I've never known where he works. I know that when they leave Bayekul, but Zuguti we're in Joburg. Now they're mentioning Vosloorus, they're mentioning Rustenburg. I don't even know those places. I wouldn't have mentioned those places in a statement. Now, when Baloyi says Zungu wrote a statement in 2023, Bab Zungu says, Amangage akalala angwafuna mang. How can Zungu have written a statement in 2023 when he came to me way back before 2023? Yena usaqhamuka sewumuntu esowazi yonke into athi no amanga angwafuni aqala net la amanga. That's when the judge then says, you know what, Zungu has already given his testimony before the court, so please can you talk about you and not what Uzungu said. So Bab Absolom Zungu is like Uzungu mo ukuthi yena i-statement sakhe usenze ngo-2023, mina esami njoba kuthiwa ngasenza ngo-2019 and mina ngatshela yena. Why yena ayenza statement in 2023? In which wardrobe was he hiding from then? Ati, because he says he was there during the incident, which wardrobe was he hiding then from 2014 up until 2023 for him to write his statements in 2023? Bab Absolom asks such good questions, guys, because which wardrobe? Which wardrobe was Zungu hiding in for him to not have a statement in 2014? Goba phela fanele ngabe statement sakhe singo 2014. So Baloyi then says, so Bab Zungu, you are distancing yourself from the statement. And Bab Absolom says, definitely, I'm distancing myself from the statement. Now, Umnisi does have an objection during this time where he says, you know, Bab Absolom Zungu is not actually a witness defense. He was supposed to be a state witness, but the state then realized that would shoot themselves in the foot if they brought Bab Zungu, and that's the reason why they didn't call him. So they need to stop saying that Bab Absolom testimony is a version, because when a witness comes to the stand, it's no longer a version, it is their testimony. Ubaloyi basically argues that these are matters for arguments. As they finish addressing each other, Bab Absolom says, even in another court, the prosecutor, he gathers all this information, all these statements, and then doesn't call the main witness, the one that is said to have given a lead for an arrest, doesn't call them to court. No, it doesn't make sense. Now, Judge Rata's response to this is that we have another lawyer. This was so disrespectful by Judge Rata, but Judge Rata, you can't expect anything more from Judge Rata. He is so disrespectful. So he basically refers to Bab Absolom to a lawyer just because he's stating that, you know what, he's stating understanding, of which he's right. He is right. But Judge Rata says he doesn't know what to make of the charade by this witness, and they will need to address him on this behavior of the witness. And he says that the evaluation of the witness will need to be done, and they need to basically address him on that, because he says that he's learning new law from this particular witness. But that is Judge Rata for you. Baloyi then says that he is now moving into another topic. Bab Absolom Zungu says, no, but minangisala. Ubaloyi then questions Bab Zungu on where he was renting in Emelo. Bab Zungu didn't want to basically answer with regards to this. He does say that he was staying in Emelo, but he doesn't want to give details of where he was staying because he doesn't want the people where he was staying to get involved in this case. He says that it was an agreement that they had. I'm guessing there's some sort of confidentiality clause that exists there, but he says he doesn't want to disclose any information about where he stayed. Yes, he did stay in Melo, and that he can confirm, but any further details he does not want to venture into. And then Ubaloyi basically says, you know, Umuzisbiya during these days and these days, in 2019, it said that he was, his cell phone pinged at the Westleton Tower in Mpumalanga. Do you have any comment? When he's questioned whether he saw accused number 1 in Mpumalanga, he basically says, listen, I'm not here to speak on behalf of anyone else. I'm here to speak about myself. Anything about accused number 1, I'm not here to talk about. I'm here to talk about myself. What does accused number 1's cell phone pinging in Mpumalanga have to do with me? Because he wasn't with me. Like, I'm not answering anything that has to do with that. He was not with me. I can't answer it. I can't answer him on his behalf. And a lot of people made it seem as though Absolom Zungu is trying to hide Umuzi. No, he's not hiding Umuzi. We've heard all the witnesses, Amapoyisa. When you question them about evidence, they say, no, I don't want to talk about their evidence. Bab Zungu is doing the exact same, and there's nothing wrong with that. He does not want to talk about Muzi's cell phone because he has no knowledge about Muzi's cell phone movements and etc. etc. He also tries to question him on accused number 5's net bank account and how there's an address that's written on his bank statement. Bab Zungu says, I know nothing about that. In fact, I don't even know accused number 5. And so there's nothing that I can talk about when it comes to accused number 5. Baloyi then questions Bab Zungu about an area called Ndengeni, and he says that area is Kwanongoma and accused number 5 is from there. And basically Bab Zungu says, well, yeah, I know the place, but that doesn't mean I know accused number 5. I don't know accused number 5 from a bar of soap. He might know me because vele emakaya siyahambelana egodini, but I don't know him because umfana omncane. Now, when I saw that Baloyi was running out of questions, it's when he asked Bab Absolom about the Mbexeni issue, where he says, with Mbexeni, you had initially said that you called someone to give Mbexeni imali to go to town and meet with Uzungu. But then now, during cross-examination, you're saying Mbexeni went to someone. And I'm just like, Baloyi, that's not helping us get anywhere. Bottom line, Mbexeni was given money. Whether Mbexeni went or whether Absolom called someone to go give him Mbeksen. Bottom line, that person met with Mbeksen, gave him Mbeksen the 20 rand to go fetch Uzungu in town and take him to Bab Absolom Zungu's house. Whether it was a phone call that was made or Mbeksen went there, it happened, and it doesn't solve Senzo Meyiwa's death. Then they confirm the issue of Constable Zungu's mom and how she stayed in Newcastle and where Uzungu grew up in Kandla. So Bab Absolom basically explains that Uzungu was born in Kandla. But after I think his uncle passed away and his aunt passed away, he then moved to Newcastle. So that's where he spent most of his time. But he did come and visit in like Christmas holidays and all those stuff. He also does go into the issue that he also does go into the issue that Umuzi Sbiya is about the same age as Uzungu. In fact, all of the accused seem like they're about the same age, basically, according to his observation. Baloyi wasted time in court, basically going through the evidence of Gininda and what Gininda came to tell the court, and the issues of Abo Lishabane and all that Uzungu basically testified. To which Ubaba Absolom basically does say that he had told Uzungu that if he knew anything, or if he had information about the death of Senzo Meyiwa, he should have gone to his employees or his boss, meaning Ulishaban, and not Ukininda, because Absolom does not trust Ukininda. So basically they go into that and also go into the information of a statement Sababu Zungu, where he says that, Ukininda, when he came to testify, he said that you were scared, there was fear of reprisal, and also that people would lose their life, meaning Absolom was scared to lose his life. Now, when they go through the statement towards the end of the proceedings, Judge Rata basically makes a comment to say Bab Zungu is literate in English, so he'll read the statement again himself. So Omnisi asks him, where did you get that from? And Urata basically says, yeah, Bab Zungu Bab Zungu's response to that is, Singena Pisngisila. On Wednesday, the 19th of November, the cross-examination of Bab Absolom Zungu continued, and Baloyi basically continued where he left off, where he says that with statement Ukininda does say that there was fear of reprisal as well as people losing their lives. And Bab Zungu's response to this is that, this whole thing is surprising me, because these people are acting like they didn't know this information and they got it from me. Meanwhile, Uzungu already had photos of the accused well before they were arrested, which is another point which is very, very important in this particular case. Bab Zungu also says that if this court was just, they wouldn't have allowed Uzungu to testify. They would have called him to come and testify. They wouldn't have taken Uzungu's evidence. He basically also says that the court is protecting Abo Kininda and the court is corrupt. Rata almost flipped. He says, are you saying I'm corrupt? Bab Zungu says, well, I'm just saying the court is corrupt, but I didn't mean you. I just thought we were talking in general. And he even apologized. And I don't think Bab Zungu really understands how the court really works, but Urata was annoyed with this comment. Bab Zungu said it up straight, the court is corrupt. Bab Zungu also says, the prosecutor needs to explain to us what's going on here, because from the get-go, the prosecutor was involved. Abo Kininda, when they gave him statements, how can the prosecutor not want me to come and testify if I'm the person that got these people arrested? He kept emphasizing this throughout his cross-examination, guys. He emphasized this over and over and over again. Another interesting thing that I picked up on with regards to Bab Zungu's cross-examination is when Ubaloyi was asking him, or was telling him about Zungu's testimony in court. He says that before Zungu came to testify, he had called his father to say, hey, Ukininda wants me to come testify in court. So that was in 2023. So he says in 2023, he got a call from Zungu saying that Kininda wants him to now come and testify in this particular case. Now, when Baloyi says to Bab Zungu, Kininda says he acted on your statement to arrest the accused. Bab Zungu says, what's confusing me here, like out of everything, is the fact that Kininda and Constable Zungu were working together. How can they be working together for so long and Kininda not know that Zungu was at the crime scene in 2014? How can they be working together? How can Kininda come to me in 2019 and say he gets a statement from me? But they've been working with this person for so long and he doesn't know that he was at the crime scene in 2014. How is that possible? I was like, yo, Bab Zungu has got the best questions ever. Now, Ubaloyi basically says, Babu Zungu, we're telling you that Constable Zungu's statement was only written in May in 2023 and yours was in 2019. So you are the person that gave the information. Babu Zungu says, no. Phela kwazi ukuthi eska Zungu statement kube sa 2023. Fanele kube sa 2014. Nangithi wayekhona kwi-crime scene. I was like, Bab Zungu, yes. Ubaloyi's response to this is that we've already covered this point, and then he moves on to the next point because we are born with yay. Bab Zungu is not having it. Ubaloyi then continues with the evidence of how the accused got arrested and so on and so forth. And Bab Zungu had just one question to Ubaloyi when it came to the arrest of the accused. He says, was Constable Zungu present during the arrest of these accused? Ubaloyi could not answer. Now, you know that the state will always want a sneaky way to bring in evidence. He tried to cross-examine Bab Absolom Zungu using the confessions of Moses B, to which Uramusipili does say that it's not fair to question this witness about the information on the confession because nowhere in Absolom Zungu's statement does he mention Kelly Kumalo. So why are you mentioning Kelly Kumalo to him when he never mentioned it and it's in Moses' statement? Baloyi basically says, no, he's just trying to show that the information that Babu Zungu had given led up to them finding out about Kelly Kumalo. But it has nothing to do with the witness. So why you want to ask him about Kelly Kumalo when he never mentioned her? Baloyi, when trying to call Ubab Zungu, he calls him Ubab Zwane, and Ubab Zungu then says, Izoke zonke lezinto is wrong. Angithi na bekafanele ngibe ukhumalo nangu manje sengibiza ngozwane. Nisi also raises an objection that supports Ramusipili's objection, to which the judge says, no, this information is relevant. The state says this, and he starts answering on behalf of the state. Nisi's response is that the court is providing answers on behalf of the state. Why is the court doing that? Judge Rata basically says, let us proceed, and he allows Ubaloyi to continue with his cross-examination. Then Ubaloyi does the cross-examination with regards to the relations of Abantu Bagandanzi, Nabakasbiya, and also if Ubabu Zungu knows accused number one's father, Unomali. He does say, yeah, he knows this name, he knows that. And then he asks about accused number five's mom, to which Bab Absolom Zungu says he doesn't know the mother. Ubaloyi then cross-examines Ubabu Zungu on various areas that he says that he has for him, and he just wanted Bab Absolom Zungu to testify and confirm whether he knows these places or not. One of the places being Kwamateni, and Bab Absolom says he doesn't know that place. Ka Vimbiskali, Ubabu Absolom says he doesn't know that place. Ka Enyokeni, he says he does know that place, and he says that it is Iskodlo Sesilo. He asks, is that in Nongoma? He says yes. And he asks about Nenge, and Bab Zungu says he doesn't know the place. Ceza, and he says yes, he knows Ceza, that's their magistrate court. And then he then says, are all these areas under the Great Nongoma area? And I'm like, what Great Nongoma area now? Bab Zungu then says no. Mahlabatini is Mahlabatini, Nongoma is Nongoma. Enyogeni, you shouldn't even be calling it Enyogeni. You should not even be talking about it. He even says that is Iskodlo. You shouldn't talk about it. And if these people come and ask me why I'm talking about it, ngizobakhomba kuwena and bazolanda wena Baloyi, because you're the one that started this thing of Enyogeni. You don't just talk about the Iskodlo Senkosi kanjalo, okay? Oh my God. He says if the police come to him, but you're the one that was asking. Like, you could tell that he's terrified about talking about Enyogeni. But yeah, so basically he explains that Mahlabatini Nongoma is its own place. He says that Enyogeni does fall under Nongoma, but the other areas that he said he knows, Mahlabatini and the other one, Kwakweza, that falls under Mahlabatini. Then Ubaloyi tries to go into the records of the cell phone towers, where Umnisi says you can't just go through the records of the phone calls and say accused 1 was there, accused 5 was there. You need to tell us this was the call, and go through that. Ubaloyi basically says, oh, this was already led by Pinky by telling him, and basically it's on record. The judge then says to Ubaloyi, just read it again. And really, Ubaloyi was willing to let it go, and he was willing to say, oh, you know what, it was just one more question, so let's just leave it. But the judge was like, no, read it. So he ended up reading a whole bunch of transactions on Muzi's phone, as well as accused number 3's phone, with all the towers that were pinging during that period. And you could tell that it was just dragging even for Ubaloyi, like he didn't want to do it, but the judge just said he must do it. Like, why, Judge Rata? Is this case yours now? Like, I case ka Rata or what? The last few issues that they touched on Wednesday was firstly the issue of the wedding, where Bab Absolom Zungu does confirm that there was a wedding in Makaya. The wedding was for his brother's child. So basically his child. In our culture, your brother's child is your child, okay? So he does confirm a wedding. And then a question that raises so many eyebrows was the question where Baloyi asked, when last did he see accused number 1 and 2? And basically Bab Zungu says he saw accused number 1 at the wedding. That was his evidence on Wednesday. And then they go through the issue of the signature, where Ubaloyi says, when you signed at Home Affairs signing for your ID, did you sign using a pen or did you sign on an electric board and stuff? Bab Zungu says he does not remember. Then they go into Exhibit U1, and he basically shows him his signature, and Bab Absolom Zungu says yes, on that Exhibit U1, which is the statement from Newcastle, he does say that is my signature. And then he takes it to his ID, says, on your ID, is this your signature? He says yes. Then Baloyi basically shows a pattern in which Bab Zungu does his signature. He says, can you see that there's that little circle or that little hook on your signature? And he says, yes, I can see that hook. And then he says, let's go to Exhibit U, which is now the statement by Ukinind. He says, can you see that little circle around your signature there? And he says, is signature yam ayibhalwa kanje. My signature, it's not that signature. Don't tell me ngondingiliza. Auntie, don't tell me about that little circle. I don't care about that little circle. The signature itself is not it. Kupalu Absolom Lapaya, and my signature looks like this. That is not my signature. Baloyi then just left Bab Zungu like that on Wednesday. On Thursday, the 20th of November, we were back in court, and before the court started, Bab Absolom Zungu wanted to apologize to the court. So I think he realized that Rata took offense to the comment that he had made the previous day that the court is corrupt, and he wanted to apologize for that. And before he finished apologizing, Umnisi basically says, you know, we're going to go through re-examination and we're going to go through certain things, and if there's anything else that you want to add, then you'll go through that. But the courts did not even acknowledge the apology by Bab Absolom Zungu, which really hurt my heart, because this person is realizing that he did wrong. He's apologizing, but you don't even give him the time or day, Judge Rat. Like, that was disappointing. But anyway, Umnisi then says, okay, we're starting with re-examination because Ubaloyi did complete his cross-examination. And one of the issues that Bab Absolom Zungu wanted to raise is the issue of the wedding, where he says he made a phone call to his daughter that was getting married to find out the date in which she got married, because he does realize that Baloyi mentioned the date and he just accepted the date, but he was not really sure about the date. Now this became a huge problem because Baloyi then says, you know, it's not allowed for the witness to be talking to people about the case. And Bab Zungu was just really trying to show his honesty, in my opinion, that, you know, I was not sure about the date, so I just called this person to confirm the date. And basically it was said that the evidence with regards to the wedding and how he wants to change whether he saw Smiya or not cannot be, like, it cannot be used because he spoke to someone else whilst he was on the stand. Now, one of the issues that I'm taking with this, and it's an issue that we raised in our TikTok group, is that most people that come to court are laymen, besides the 100,000 cops that Ubaloyi brought. But most of the people that go to court don't even know the rules of the court, don't even know the rules of the court. So it is expected that the judge would then lead them and say, you know, Now that you're a witness, you're not allowed to do this. Even when they leave, remind them, hey, remember, don't talk about the case. I remember Judge Raza doing this with Uzandi. But he's never done that with any of the witnesses lately. Like, remind them, don't talk to anyone about the case. Remember, you shouldn't talk to anyone. Those sort of things, for people who are like us, who don't know the law, assist us in assisting the court, because we know that we're not supposed to talk to anyone. Bab Absolom Zungu spoke to someone innocently so because he did not know, but Urata J just gave him a cold shoulder and was like, we're not going to consider that evidence and because you're not supposed to be talking to people. And in my mind, I'm just like, they're gonna want to use this to discredit his whole evidence. At some point, I really thought that's what they want to do. They want to discredit his whole evidence and his whole denying this particular statement just because of one phone call that he did to confirm the date of a wedding. Oh my gosh. So basically, Umnisi, with his re-examination, then just questions Bab Zungu how he really feels about the fact that these people are said to be arrested on his statement. And he just says, no, he really does feel bad about it. And he just really wants justice and he wants the truth. Like, he really wants the truth and he just wants justice. I wish he could have said, let these people go because it was never me. Really, I wish that he said that. And then another thing him was with regards to the signatures, to say, in light of the fact that the signatures are not the same and this is what's going on, what do you say? And he just basically says, it just shows that there's a whole lot of ubugebengu, documents have been signed, I'm being said to have made a statement, and I never made a statement, but I was never called in court. It really just upsets me because ingane zabantu ziboshiwe because manje kuthiwa yimi ukhulumeli zonke lezinto, you know. So it really does upset him. There wasn't much in the re-examination by Umnisi as well. Basically, Bab Zungu was done with his testimony, his cross-examination and re-examination, and he is now officially released from his duties. Now guys, another thing, I remember I mentioned this in my previous video where Judge Raza didn't even thank Umuzisbiya for assisting the court. The same happened with Bab Zungu. He never thanked him for assisting the court. He never thanked him for his evidence. He never released him formally whilst he was there, because by the time he asked, where is Bab Absolom Zungu, he was already off the stand without Judge Raza actually saying, you're free to go. Thank you for your assistance. Like, I don't know what's wrong with that judge. I don't know what is wrong with that judge. But those were the proceedings for this week, guys. It's pretty much a wrap-up of Bab Zungu's testimony, and I'm so glad that he did come. We are expecting another witness. The proceedings were adjourned for Monday because we are expecting a new witness, and it is alleged that the witness is currently working, so they wouldn't have been able to come to court on Friday. So Friday was a day off basically for us, but we are expecting a new witness, and according to Umnisi, it is a Miss XX. I am thinking that it could be Umbali Moyo to try and confirm the evidence of the statements, but I could be wrong. So we will find out on Monday who the next witness is, and I cannot wait to see Ugut Ubanideo witness and what they bring for us. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that you enjoy your weekend. We'll see each other again next week. Bye.